There was a time when some of the best games around were licensed platformers in purple boxes. That time happened to coincide with my childhood, as it did for so many of the people who cover games for a living. That's why you've read a million leads to reviews of this very game that all start with the same kind of gushing. This game was my childhood. Oh, I grew up with this game. I didn't want to do that. I respect it too much. Like a wealthy duck diving into his riches. I think I'm falling into it. When I was a kid, few names meant as much to me as Disney and Capcom. And combined, they were everything I wanted video games to be. 20 years later, DUCKTALES Remastered shows me that, to an extent, they still are.
Your safe is securely suspended, son.
Now, if you didn't grow up solving mysteries and rewriting history, let's reset on Duckburg's Duck Blur. DuckTales was an animated TV series from Disney. Like Disney. It was about Donald Duck's affluent uncle, Scrooge McDuck, a shrewd Scottish businessman, and a freaking duck. Oh, and there was a video game that was fucking quacktastic.
Launchpad. I told you to land in the center of the mountain range, not in the center of a mountain.
Gee, Mr. McD, I thought that crash was rock solid.
And so here we are, nearly a quarter century after Capcom's legendary NES game. DuckTales is back, lovingly and meticulously remade in stunning HD. And by those 2D maestros at Way Forward Technologies, no less. And they've really gone the extra mile in resurrecting DuckTales, drawing every character by hand, and even going as far as bringing in animators who worked on the original show. This is every pixel of the DuckTales you remember. The only question is, do you remember it? And if not, will you even care? Now, DuckTales was interesting on the NES for 3 reasons. 1, the strong character appeal. 2, that incredible Capcom polish. And 3, the gameplay. DuckTales was made using the old Mega Man engine, and it definitely has a lot of the Blue Bomber's trademarks. The game has 5 levels that can be played in any order, like Mega Man, and the levels themselves are also non-linear. But there's a lot to explore in DuckTales. Hidden treasures, secret paths, and I mean, in 1990, that stuff was kind of a huge deal, but in 2013, perhaps not so much. I mean, DuckTales might not seem like such a huge deal without the right context. I mean, it can even seem a little outdated at times, so if you didn't grow up with an NES, you might not see what's so special about DuckTales. But see, that's the thing. For better or worse, it's a really authentic remake. This is DuckTales to the feather, but with stunning new character art and animation, and one interesting change. Way Forward has modernized DuckTales just a bit by giving it an emphasis on story and dialogue. A good idea for sure, but kind of obtrusive. You're constantly being stopped for dialogue. And as terrific as that dialogue is, Scrooge is actually voiced by the original actor, which is awesome. It can really break up the flow of the game.
Brigadoon!
What is it, Uncle Scrooge?
It's a treasure map, lads. And no ordinary treasure by the look of things.
Only Uncle Scrooge would call any kind of treasure ordinary.
And of course, that's a bad thing because the game's so damn good. Even all these years later, DuckTales is just an incredibly good platformer. And unique, too. Scrooge's pogo stick cane is still a charming and distinct mechanic. And the draw of searching an environment for treasure is as strong as ever, even 23 years later. But there's a charm to DuckTales that's really ageless. You know, there used to be an innocence to gaming, a sort of naivety, it seemed, even from the companies running it. It was all so new and so fresh, without all the nonsense that can make today's industry so less appealing. You can put aside all the things that make this game so great and just enjoy it on that basic level, that DuckTales is a game from a time when games were just that. And these days, that's worth more than gold.
Mrs. Beakley, what are you doing here?
Why, I'm seeing that you get a proper meal, Mr. McDuck.
You're worth your weight in gold, Mrs. Beakley. If you'll pardon the expression.